Hi, this is Bob at Whole Earth Harvest. Today we're going to show you about how to set up your grow kit that you can get on wholeearthharvest.com. And so yeah, this is how it looks when you receive it from FedEx. And you just simply want to open that box up. And inside, what you're going to find in your grow kit is some packaging, of course, to keep it nice and in good condition when you receive it. You will get a list of instructions and a thank you so much for getting a grow kit. And in this, you will have how to grow shiitake, getting started, and we're going to talk about these things here a little bit as we go. You will also get your shiitake block that's in a bag, keeping it nice and clean. You will receive a spray bottle and a bag that's used for a tent, some matting and some skewers, and your tray in the bottom of that. So I'm going to set this stuff aside here. Remove that, and you will unroll your bubble wrap to keep this plastic tray nice and neat. And you can use this for other packaging, recycle that in your anything else you need there. What I like to do is I like to set this on a sheet pan. I put some foil on a sheet pan here, and that way it can be transported. I'll show you that a little bit later. So what you'll want to do is take and remove the rubber band and take your matting and your skewers, and you simply set that matting right about in the middle of that pan, and take your tray and set in the middle of the matting, center that way there. And then you can take your skewers. Well, you might want to put the block on first. Take your block. Now you can use some gloves if you want to. I'm just going to use my bare hands and just pull this block out. This is what's going to grow the mushrooms, and you can set it right there on the center of that tray. And the bag can be reused or just discarded. Then what you do is take these skewers right here, and you put each skewer inside a hole that's in each corner of the tray. This is to hold the tent open. So then what you want to do is you want to add some water to the 3 compartments here. About a ½ inch is enough. You don't need a lot. You just kind of keep on it. You want to keep that water level about that throughout the time that you have your block. So you pour it in each of the 3 compartments. That makes plenty of water underneath there, but not very much. And then what you want to do is get your tent, and the tent has holes in it so that it can breathe. Open that up, and put that over the skewers like so, and set those skewers at a little bit of an angle so it holds the bag out and away. I like to just take the tops and pull on them like that, kind of squares that up, makes those gussets work. And then the bag just kind of fits down around the tray and onto the cookie sheet. That way, if you have any moisture that drips, if you have any spores that happen later on when the mushrooms are growing and fruiting, that it all stays all nice and contained. The other thing that's nice about this is it allows you to pick it up, take it, move it from place to place as you need. So that's just the first initial setup. Another thing that you can do, depending on how kind of warm and dry your area is to mist the block with some water. So I'm going to pour a little water in this spray bottle that you get. I'll put the lid back on it here. And so before you put the tin on, you certainly can spray it. This is a self-contained growing machine. You do not need to spray it, but some people do like to. So you just simply mist, nice little misting spray on the outside of the block. It doesn't hurt it at all. You can touch it. It gives a little bit extra moisture to it. So if you have a really dry area in your home near a fireplace or something like that, it's probably not the best place to grow the shiitake. If you think of an area that has fungus growing, it would be more like your bathroom. So you want an environment that you're creating that environment with this tent by taking moisture. You should see some condensation happening on the bag over time a little bit. That's a good thing. That's telling you that you've got a good moist environment for growing the shiitake mushrooms. We're going to, you can look at your instructions here. It talks about what I just said about setting it up. A little bit later, we're going to come back and see how the block is doing and see the different development stages of the shiitake mushrooms. So very simple, easy system. You can put this in a cool area of the home. Some people put them down on the floor. Generally, you don't want direct light, and you also want to keep it in the mid-60s if possible. So we're going to leave this alone and come back here a little later in about 4 or 5 days and see how it's developed. Okay, so here we are. This is about 6 days later, and the mushroom pins are already starting to come out of the block. And I call them pins. Not just me, they're called pins. And the pins are the little small ones coming out. You can see quite a few of the small pins. Some of these are already starting to come out pretty rapidly. What you're looking for, if things are really doing well with the block, and it's healthy and it likes its environment, everything's all good, then you'll have like what's called mushrooms after mushrooms. You'll just keep getting mushrooms. It'll pin for 4 or 5 days. So you'll be harvesting for like a week or so. You'll get a large amount of harvesting. We'll get to that stage, the harvesting stage, later. But you'll get a large amount of harvesting kind of on 1 or 2 days. But you should harvest for 4 or 5, 6, 7 days in a row. When you get your block, like I said, it'll look like the other one, the earlier one that has hardly any pins on it. You might have a couple pins when you get it in delivery, but generally it'll be 4, 5, 6 days, and it'll begin to pin, and by day 7 you'll have it looking about like this here. And those pins will grow out all over the whole block on both sides. Some will even start to come out of the bottom. Okay, so here we are on day 12, and depending on the temperatures, this could develop to this stage a little earlier, a little later. So this is where the mushrooms, some of these are ready to harvest. You can still mist it even with the mushrooms on there. It doesn't hurt the mushrooms. If you do want to keep your block healthy and moist, you think of your skin being dry. If your skin is too dry, it's not healthy. Same thing with the skin of the block. You don't want it too dry. You don't want it crackly at all. So keeping the water level in the tray and misting it occasionally as needed will help with that. So when you're ready to harvest, you can move a couple of skewers out if you like. And I like to pick the block up and flip it over upside down. And the reason for that is that the mushrooms that are ready for harvest are the ones that have been opened up on the bottom like that. They have a nice creamy white stem. You can just simply take a pair of scissors and get anywhere near that and just nip them off right there close to the block, and there you go. So I like to harvest them when they're still have the nice curl to them. You can get in here and snip off this one here. That's a little bit underdeveloped, but we have some that are ready to go right here. Oops, there goes that one. Here's a little bit of a larger one. And you can see the ones I'm cutting off are opened up and ready to go. Here's one. I want to show you this one. Here it's what I call a geeky mushroom. Every now and then you get some of these geeky mushrooms. They kind of grow odd. It actually ended up being almost like two mushrooms. Has two caps. It's all weird and geeky. You can cut any dark stuff off of that. You can use it if you want or just discard it. But the mushroom is very edible. It's just misshapen. Occasionally it'll do that, especially down near the bottom. Here's one that's that way. And you can see occasionally you'll get a geeky mushroom. I like these. They're kind of cool. But anyway, you can harvest off your mushrooms as you need to. You don't need to pick the block up and look underneath. If you can tell that it's open, you can just reach in here and snip them off, grab them with your fingers, and leave the rest of these that are not opened up to grow bigger, because they'll continue to grow bigger. Some mushrooms will be smaller, some will be larger. You get a good variety that way there. That's certainly enough for dinner right there. When you cut off your mushrooms, and you have these stems on the mushrooms, they are completely edible. You do not need to toss those away. That is part of the nutrition there. So you can take and cut those up into small pieces if you like into your dish. You can eat the mushrooms whole. Some people like to eat them raw. They're very good. But the whole mushroom is edible. And then simply put your skewers back in. Make sure that you've got your water in the bottom of your tray. If you need to mist it, it's a good time to do so. And again, it doesn't hurt having a little mist on the mushrooms themselves. At that point, put your bag back on. Your tent, I say bag, it's a tent. Put your tent back on there. Have those skewers pointed in an outward direction. You will probably need to harvest at least once a day. You can harvest and keep harvesting until it continues to stop producing mushrooms. And at that point, then there's going to be the ability to take the block and do what we call resting it, and then soaking it, and then fruiting it a second and a third time. We talk about that in the instructions. We'll talk about that some more here in a little bit. So there you go. There's to set up and harvest your shiitake mushroom block from wholeearthharvest.com. We thank you very much for joining us.